About 10 years ago in Kenya, in a place called Turkana, they found a huge supply of water underground. The government said that this water would be enough to provide the whole country for 70 years. Then another large supply of water was found in Namibia, the driest country in Africa, and recently in Niger in the United States, 5 large aquifers with more than 600 billion cubic meters of water were discovered at once. By comparison, Egypt needs only 114 billion cubic meters of water per year. It turns out that there is a lot of water in Africa, but people don't use it. Why? It would be too easy, and I wouldn't make this video. By the way, don't forget to like it. Look, there are strange semicircular dams on Earth. The Kenyans build such structures to collect rainwater. This is very important for local residents because without water, they cannot farm and earn a living. Imagine how difficult it is for them to get water when they live right above large reserves. Africa is a continent with a lot of water. There are many blue spots on the map. These are aquifers with fresh water. Scientists say that about 30% of all fresh water on the planet is in Africa. Although it looks arid, there are actually many rivers and reservoirs there. Africa has 60 large river basins that cover more than half of the continent. Scientists have found that there is 100 times more water underground than on the surface. The underground water reserves in Africa are estimated at 0.6 million cubic kilometers, which is 20 times more than in lakes. The largest reserves are in North Africa, in Libya, Algeria, and Chad. If we took out all this water and poured it on the surface, it would form a 75-meter high layer. Previously, scientists did not pay attention to groundwater, but new discoveries can change everything. To understand how to use these reserves, you need to know what an aquifer is. This is the layer of Earth where groundwater is stored. Many have already heard about it. Let's figure out what groundwater is. This is water that seeped into the ground and stayed there. It does not flow like a river, but is simply in the soil. Water can be in different places, in large caves or just between rocks. We use this water for drinking, for watering plants, and for various needs in the house. To get it, people make special wells and pump out water. Groundwater can be different. Some layers can be very large and deep, while others are small and thin. In Africa, most of these water reserves are not deep, less than 50 meters underground. For example, there are 2 large aquifers in South Africa. One of them stretches from Cape Town to another city and occupies a huge area. North Africa also has large water reserves. For example, the Nubian Aquifer, which is very large and contains more water than the Nile River can dump in 500 years. Water gets into these reserves in different ways. Sometimes it is filled with rains, and sometimes it is old water that was there many years ago. For example, Nubian water is very old water that has been stored underground for thousands of years. Once there was a rainforest, but now it is a desert, so this water is stored underground, not even suspecting that everything has changed on the surface. Now about how to get water. There are different ways. You can dig wells manually or drill wells, but it's not always easy. Sometimes large wells can quickly exhaust water reserves, especially in places where there is little rain. Groundwater can remain underground for 20 to 70 years. Therefore, sometimes it is better to use slower methods of obtaining water. Properly positioned wells and hand pumps can be more effective in providing water for people. In North Africa, 92% of people have access to clean water. It's not bad. But in sub-Saharan Africa, only 60% of people can drink safe water. This means that 40% of 783 million people do not have access to clean water. In these places, people use less water than they need, even less than the UN says. Only 50 liters per day. Small villages often do not have running water. People have to go for water. Sometimes someone from the family takes 30 minutes or more to bring water home. Every day they take bright yellow plastic cans that used to be filled with vegetable oil. If you fill them completely, about 18 liters of water can fit. This is very hard work, especially when canisters are carried in the hands on uneven roads. Sometimes there are queues for water, and it can be a long time to wait. The water situation is getting worse. In recent years, the percentage of people who receive tap water at home has decreased from 42% to 34%. This is due to the fact that there has been less rain and about 90% of the wells have dried up. Unscrupulous water sellers have appeared who sell low-quality water and inflate prices. People can only buy this water because there are no other options. Sometimes heavy rains don't help either. They can cause floods that damage pipes and pollute water sources. In such cases, landslides can occur in some countries, like Kenya, and sea levels rise and also pollute the water. Science shows that water scarcity in Africa is not due to lack of it. The fact is that resources are distributed very unevenly. For example, 54% of water reserves are located in only 6 countries, and 27 countries suffer from water shortages and have only 7%. It's unfair, but no one can do anything about it. The second reason why people in South Africa have problems with water is related to how we get water out of the ground. There are large reserves of water underground, about 235 billion cubic meters, but it is difficult to pump out this water. Due to the peculiarities of the earth and other reasons, most of this water simply cannot be obtained. If we take too much water, the soil may become empty and crack. If the aquifer is close to the sea, then salty seawater can get there during pumping, and all the water will become undrinkable. If too much water is pumped out, it can even cause the collapse of the earth and the appearance of craters, which will be dangerous for people. Also, rivers can dry up due to the fact that we take too much groundwater. But even if there is water underground, this does not always solve the problem. For example, in Kenya, water from one aquifer turned out to be too salty and unsuitable for use. And aquifers are not only in one country, they extend across borders. This means that countries will have to share water, and this can lead to conflicts. There are other difficulties. For example, the distance from an aquifer to places where water is needed can be large. It is very expensive to build pipes and other infrastructure. Drilling wells also costs a lot of money. Before drilling, you need to check the ground to see if there is water there. Then there are the costs of drilling machines and workers' salaries. Sometimes the water turns out to be polluted due to people or has unnecessary impurities. If the depth is more than 50 meters, manual pumps will no longer help. Automatic pumps are needed, which also costs money. At a depth of more than 100 meters, drilling becomes even more expensive, about $130,000 per well. Due to lack of money, underground water sources remain unused and not even explored. But there is also good news. It is expected that by 2036, $274 million will be invested in the development of aquifers. If everything works out, they will be able to provide half of the water for the city of Cape Town. The countries that use the northern aquifer have already agreed on a fair distribution of water. People in southern Africa are now facing one of the worst droughts in recent years. About 70 million people do not have enough food and water. Where there used to be rivers, there is now a desert. To get at least some water, people dig the bottom of rivers. One bucket of water is placed in these pits, and they drink, wash, and water their cattle with it. To get this water, the locals have to spend a lot of time and effort every day. Imagine that you have to walk for 3 whole hours to get a bucket of dirty water. In Cape Town, from 2015 to 2018, there was a very severe drought. This happens once every 400 years. Because of this, the city, where about 4.6 million people live, has almost run out of water. Imagine. There would be no water left at all. The authorities even thought to turn off the water pipes. This would mean that Cape Town would become the first big city in the world to run out of water. It's not something to be proud of. Fortunately, people started saving water, and then it started raining. But in March of this year, residents of Johannesburg, Africa's richest city, faced water shortages in the heat. Because of this, local shops and even hospitals were affected. The nurses complained that they couldn't even wash their hands. But the lack of water was not because there was no water. The problem started because of other electrical problems. One important pumping station was struck by lightning and the electricity went out, but everything was fixed. If you like this post, please like it. See you soon.